Jax's revenge domain.
I was staring at a $28,000 retention bonus email when the bearing in line 3 started screaming like a banshee. The kind of metal-on-metal shriek that means someone's about to have a very expensive day. My name's Weston Barnes, and I'm 49 years old. I've been fixing things that break in this automotive parts plant for 23 years, ever since I got out of the Navy. That morning in March, I thought I was looking at the biggest insult of my career. Turned out it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But let me back up a little. 3 months earlier, our biggest contract was hanging by a thread. Ford was ready to walk because we kept shipping them transmission housings with hairline cracks. Not visible to the naked eye, but their quality control caught them, and suddenly we were looking at a $2.8 million problem. Management was in full panic mode. Tyler Nash, our 31-year-old operations manager with his shiny MBA and 2 years of actual manufacturing experience, was running around like his hair was on fire. He'd been brought in from some consulting firm to modernize our processes, which mostly meant he used a lot of buzzwords in meetings and made PowerPoint presentations about synergy. Don't get me wrong, Tyler wasn't a bad guy, just green. Fresh out of business school with all the latest theories, but none of the practical knowledge that comes from actually running equipment. The kind of manager who could tell you the ROI on a process improvement but couldn't hear when a bearing was about to seize. Tyler's initial diagnosis was that our heat treatment cycles were off. He wanted to increase the temperature and extend the timing. Basic metallurgy would tell you that was backwards, but Tyler didn't do basic metallurgy. He did data analytics and process optimization. I kept my mouth shut for about a week while they implemented his changes. The reject rate doubled. That's when they called me in. Not officially, mind you. Tyler still owned the project, but plant manager Williams pulled me aside and asked if I could take a look. Unofficially, I spent 72 hours on that floor checking every step of the process. Heat treatment, cooling rates, alloy composition, tooling wear. The problem wasn't in the obvious places. It was in the dye lubricant we'd switched to 6 months earlier to save costs. The new formula had different thermal properties that created micro stress points during forming. Simple fix. Switch back to the original lubricant. Adjust the forming pressure by 3%. Problem solved. I documented everything, sent the report up the chain. Tyler presented it to the Ford engineers like it was his discovery. Suddenly he was the hero who saved the contract. I didn't say anything. That's not how I operate. Do the work, fix the problem, move on to the next one. Tyler was learning, and everyone makes mistakes early in their career. I'd made plenty when I was his age, but I remembered fast forward to March, and corporate announces they're rolling out retention bonuses. Makes sense. We'd almost lost a major contract. People were nervous, and management wanted to keep key personnel from jumping ship. They called it the Critical Talent Retention Program. Very official, very strategic. Tyler got his notification first. $28,000 paid out over 12 months if he signed a commitment letter. He was practically bouncing off the walls, telling anyone who'd listen about how the company finally recognized his value. I got my notification 2 days later, $5,000. Let me put that in perspective. Tyler makes $95,000 a year and has been here 2 years. I make $78,000 and have been here 23 years. I saved the company $2.8 million. He took credit for my work, and they gave him a bonus that was more than twice what I make in a month. The email had all the corporate language you'd expect. We value your contribution to our success, and this reflects our commitment to retaining top talent. Standard HR boilerplate. But the kicker was the meeting Williams called to announce the bonuses to the engineering team. Tyler was there, beaming like he'd won the lottery. Williams made a little speech about rewarding excellence and recognizing leadership during challenging times. Then Tyler stood up and said something I'll never forget. I think this shows that the company values people who can adapt to modern manufacturing principles. Sometimes experience has to give way to innovation. He was looking right at me when he said it. That night, I went home to my empty apartment and did some math. After my divorce 3 years ago, I pay $1,200 a month in child support for my 16-year-old son, Jake. Kids looking at colleges, and even with in-state tuition, we're talking about serious money. I've got maybe 15 years left before retirement, and I'm watching guys half my age get rewarded for presenting my solutions as their own ideas. The retention bonus had a clause, accept it, and you commit to staying 12 months, decline it, and you're free to go. I spent the weekend thinking about that line 3 bearing. It had been running hot for months, but still within acceptable parameters. Management kept putting off the replacement because it was expensive and the line was profitable. The bearing kept degrading, stress fractures spreading, metal fatigue building up, until one day it just let go. Monday morning, I walked into Williams's office and declined the bonus. "You sure about this, Wes?" he asked. $5 grand is $5 grand, I'm sure, I said. He didn't ask why, probably figured I was just being stubborn. Old-timer set in his ways. I started looking for a new job that afternoon, not frantically, methodically. The way I approach any problem, identify the requirements, evaluate the options, select the best solution. Turns out when you've got 23 years of experience keeping complex manufacturing systems running, people notice, especially when you've got a track record of solving problems that stump the MBA crowd. I had 3 interviews lined up within 2 weeks, all of them with companies that competed directly with us. The first offer came from Henderson Manufacturing about 30 miles north. They made similar components, served some of the same customers, and they'd been hearing stories about our quality issues. The hiring manager, a guy named Pete Rodriguez, who'd actually run a shop floor before getting promoted, cut right to the chase. "We know what you did with the Ford contract," he said. "We know who really figured out that dye lubricant problem, and we know you're not getting the recognition you deserve." Word travels fast in the manufacturing world. Engineers talk to each other. Vendors know who calls them when there's a real problem versus who calls them to cover their mistakes. Pete had been around long enough to separate the talkers from the doers. The offer was 40% more than I was making, plus a $15,000 signing bonus. Company truck. Better health insurance. And Pete made it clear that if I brought any insights about our processes, they'd be very interested to hear them. Nothing proprietary, he said, but general industry knowledge, best practices, lessons learned. That's all fair game. I told him I'd think about it. The thinking didn't take long. I gave my 2 weeks' notice on a Tuesday. Williams was shocked. Tyler looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. "Where are you going?" Williams asked. "Henderson Manufacturing? They're a direct competitor." "I know. We can't let you take proprietary information." "I wouldn't do that, but everything in my head comes with me." That's when Tyler spoke up. "Honestly, this might be for the best. Weston's been resistant to new methodologies. Sometimes you have to clear out legacy thinking to move forward." Legacy thinking, that's what 23 years of experience had become. "You might want to check the maintenance schedule on line 3, I said. "That bearing's been running hot for 6 months. Tyler waved me off. "We've got predictive maintenance algorithms now. The sensors would alert us if there was a problem." I didn't bother explaining that sensors only tell you what's happening, not what's about to happen. That takes experience. I worked my 2 weeks professional as always. Documented my ongoing projects, transferred my files, answered questions, but I didn't volunteer anything extra. No informal knowledge transfer. No helpful suggestions about upcoming challenges. On my last day, Tyler made a point of shaking my hand and wishing me luck. "Change can be hard," he said. "I hope you find what you're looking for." What I was looking for was respect. Turned out I found it at Henderson. Pete Rodriguez introduced me to the team as their new senior process engineer. Not just another engineer, senior. The guy you call when something breaks and you need it fixed. Right. My first week there, they walked me through their operation. Similar equipment to what we used at my old place, but newer, better maintained. They'd been having some efficiency issues with their heat treatment line. Nothing critical, just not getting the throughput they wanted. I spent a day observing, asked a few questions, and identified 3 bottlenecks that were costing them about 8% capacity. Simple fixes, mostly related to cycle timing and material flow. We implemented the changes over a weekend, and Monday morning they were running at 102% of design capacity. Pete bought lunch for the whole engineering team that day. "This is what happens when you hire someone who actually knows what they're doing," he announced, instead of someone who just looks good in meetings. The comment wasn't aimed at anyone in particular, but everyone laughed. These were people who'd been working together for years, who trusted each other's competence. It felt good to be part of that again. Meanwhile, back at my old plant, interesting things were happening. Tyler was learning what it meant to be responsible for keeping the line running without someone to clean up his mistakes. I heard about it through Jake. His friend's dad worked maintenance there, and word travels fast in a small manufacturing town. They were having problems with Line 3 again, different issues this time. Tyler had decided to implement some efficiency improvements based on data analysis, faster cycle times, higher throughput, maximum utilization. The only problem was he didn't understand that those systems had been designed with specific tolerances for a reason. Push them too hard and things start to break. The first failure was a hydraulic pump that couldn't handle the increased pressure cycles. $8,000 replacement plus 2 days of downtime while they waited for parts. Then the conveyor drive started having issues. The motors were running hot because Tyler had increased the belt speed without upgrading the cooling system. Another $12,000 plus more downtime, but the big one happened 3 weeks after I left. Tyler decided to override the safety interlocks on the heat treatment furnace to squeeze out a few more degrees of temperature. He'd run some calculations that showed it would improve the metallurgical properties of the parts. What he didn't calculate was thermal expansion. The furnace door mechanism wasn't designed for that temperature range. The expansion caused a seal failure, and suddenly they had superheated air blasting into the work area. Nobody got hurt, thank God, but they had to emergency shut down the whole line. The furnace was damaged, the parts in process were scrap, and they missed delivery on a critical order. Total cost, $47,000 plus penalty clauses with the customer. I found out about it the next day when Pete Rodriguez mentioned it in our morning meeting. Henderson had picked up the emergency order to cover the shortfall. Rush job, premium pricing, very profitable. Funny thing, Pete said, grinning. The customer specifically asked for you to oversee the project. Seems word gets around about people who know what they're doing. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just getting respect at Henderson. I was building a reputation in the industry. Other companies were starting to know my name, not as Tyler's subordinate or Williams' troubleshooter, but as Weston Barnes, the guy who gets things done right. The rush order took 3 weeks to complete. We worked some overtime, but nothing crazy. The difference was efficiency. When everyone on the team knows their job and trusts each other's competence, things just flow better. Pete made sure I got a performance bonus for the project. Not huge, but it was the principle that mattered. Do good work, get recognized. Simple concept that my old company seemed to have forgotten. Jake was impressed when I told him about the new job. "Dad, you sound happier," he said during one of our Saturday dinners. Like actually happy, not just trying to be happy. Kids notice things. After the divorce, I'd been going through the motions for a while. Work, pay bills, see Jake on weekends, repeat. But at Henderson, I was actually excited about Monday mornings again. Problems to solve, systems to improve, people who listened when I talked. About 2 months into the new job, I got a call from Williams. Awkward conversation. "Wes, I'll cut to the chase," he said. "We're having some issues. Tyler's struggling with some of the technical aspects of the operation, and we could use your expertise on a consulting basis." "What kind of issues?" "Equipment reliability, process optimization. The kind of things you were handling before, I see. And Tyler's okay with this." Long pause. Tyler's learning that there's a difference between managing processes and understanding them. I almost felt bad for the kid. Almost. "I appreciate the call, Williams, but I'm pretty busy here. Henderson keeps me occupied. We could make it worth your while. Consulting rate, short-term project." "I'm sure you could, but I think Tyler needs to figure this out on his own. That's how people learn, right? Trial and error." Another pause. "I understand. If you change your mind, I'll keep that in mind. Good luck with everything." I hung up feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Not the petty kind that comes from making someone else look bad, but the real kind that comes from being genuinely valuable. 3 months later, Tyler's department got reorganized. Corporate decided to outsource operations management to a firm that specialized in manufacturing efficiency. Tyler got a severance package and a recommendation letter. The retention bonus Tyler got, he had to pay it back when he left early, prorated based on time served. He lasted 8 months, so he kept about $18,000 of it. I made more than that in my signing bonus alone. I heard through the industry grapevine that Tyler landed at a consulting company, helping other manufacturers optimize their processes. Maybe that's where he belonged all along. Some people are better at analyzing systems than running them. Meanwhile, at Henderson, things kept getting better. Pete Rodriguez got promoted to VP of Operations, and he recommended me for his old position as engineering manager. Suddenly, I had a team of 6 engineers, all of whom actually listened when I talked about thermal stress and material properties. My salary was now more than Tyler had been making, and Jake's college fund was looking a lot healthier. But the best part wasn't the money or the title. It was the respect. When I walked into a meeting, people paid attention. When I suggested a process change, they implemented it. When something broke, they called me because they trusted me to fix it, not because they couldn't find anyone else. The first time my phone rang at 2 a.m., at the new job, my heart jumped. Old habits, but it wasn't an alert. It was a wrong number. I silenced it and went back to sleep without thinking about uptime or equipment failures, or whether anyone would notice if I didn't fix something fast enough. Because the truth is, walking out of that retention bonus meeting wasn't the dramatic part. The dramatic part was realizing I didn't have to prove my value by being exhausted anymore. A few months after Tyler left, I ran into him at an industry conference. He looked good, relaxed. We talked for a few minutes about general industry trends, nothing personal. "You know," he said as we were wrapping up, "I learned a lot from working with you. I just wish I'd been smart enough to learn faster." That was probably the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. "Experience takes time," I told him. "You can't shortcut it, but you can value it when you see it." He nodded. I get that now. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But it wasn't my problem anymore. 6 months later, Henderson promoted me to engineering manager. I had a team of 6 engineers, all of whom actually listened when I talked about thermal stress and material properties. My salary was now $125,000, more than Tyler had been making at his peak, and Jake's college fund was finally where it needed to be. But the real victory wasn't financial, it was professional. When I walked into Henderson's main conference room for my first department head meeting, Pete Rodriguez introduced me to the other managers as the guy who solved our heat treatment efficiency problem in his first week. Not as the old-timer they'd hired out of sympathy, not as the veteran they were giving a chance, as the expert they'd brought in to get results. That's when I knew I'd made the right choice. The funny thing about respect is that once you have it, you realize how long you'd been living without it. At my old plant, I'd been the reliable guy, the one they called when things went wrong. But reliable and respected aren't the same thing. Reliable means they need you. Respected means they value you. There's a difference. At Henderson, when I suggested process improvements, they implemented them. When I identified potential problems, they listened. When I recommended equipment upgrades, they budgeted for them. They didn't just want me to fix things after they broke. They wanted me to prevent them from breaking in the first place. That's the difference between being a troubleshooter and being an engineer. About a year after I left my old company, I heard they'd hired a new senior process engineer, someone with 20 years of experience at a competitor. They were paying him $95,000 to start, plus a $10,000 signing bonus. More than they'd ever offered me in 23 years. The new guy lasted 6 months before he quit. Apparently, he got tired of cleaning up messes that could have been prevented with proper maintenance and realistic operating parameters. Some lessons companies have to learn the hard way. Williams retired early about 18 months later. I heard he was frustrated with corporate's cost-cutting mandates and tired of fighting battles he couldn't win. Good guy, wrong situation. Sometimes the system defeats even the people who understand it. Tyler, as I mentioned, found his place in consulting. Last I heard, he was doing well helping companies implement lean manufacturing principles. Turns out he was better at analyzing systems than operating them, which makes sense. Some people are natural consultants, and there's nothing wrong with that. The important thing is finding where your talents fit. Jake graduated high school last spring and got into state on an engineering scholarship. Partial academic, partial need-based. When he told me he wanted to study mechanical engineering, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride that wasn't mixed with frustration or resentment. You sure about that? I asked him. It's not the most glamorous field. Dad, he said, I've watched you fix things my whole life. Real things. Important things. That's what I want to do. He's starting college this fall, and for the first time since the divorce, I'm not worried about how we'll pay for it. Not because I'm making enough money, which I am, but because I finally have job security that's based on my actual value rather than just longevity. That matters when you're planning for the future. Henderson's grown by 30% since I started there. We've landed 3 major contracts, including one that we poached directly from my old company. Not because we underbid them, but because our quality metrics were better and our delivery times more reliable. Turns out, when you invest in people who know what they're doing, good things happen. Pete Rodriguez likes to joke that hiring me was the best decision he ever made, but I know better. The best decision I ever made was walking away from that $5,000 retention bonus. Not because the money didn't matter, but because accepting it would have meant accepting the valuation that came with it. Sometimes the most expensive thing you can do is sell yourself cheap. Last month, I got a LinkedIn message from a recruiter representing a major automotive manufacturer. They'd heard about my work at Henderson and wanted to know if I'd be interested in a director of manufacturing engineering position. The salary range was $140,000 to $160,000 plus performance bonuses. I thanked them for the inquiry, but declined. Not because the opportunity wasn't good, but because I'm exactly where I want to be. Sometimes the goal isn't to keep climbing. Sometimes the goal is to find a place where your work is valued and your expertise is respected. I've found that place. The bearing in line 3 at my old plant finally failed completely about 6 months after I left, just like I predicted it would. They had to shut down production for 4 days while they waited for a replacement and rebuilt the entire drive assembly. Cost them about $200,000 in lost production and emergency repairs, but I wasn't there to say I told you so. I was at Henderson, designing preventive maintenance protocols that would keep their equipment running reliably for years. That's the difference between being reactive and being proactive, between being a cost center and being a value creator. The retention bonus program at my old company was quietly discontinued the following year. Turns out, when you pay people based on politics rather than performance, you end up retaining the wrong people and losing the right ones. Another lesson learned the hard way. Look, I'm not telling you this story because I want sympathy or because I think I'm special. I'm telling it because I know there are guys out there, probably reading this right now, who are in the same situation I was in. You've got the knowledge, you've got the experience, you've been doing the real work for years, but somehow you're watching people with half your experience get twice the recognition. Maybe you're thinking about staying put, keeping your head down, waiting for things to get better. Maybe you're worried about starting over somewhere else, concerned about the risks of walking away from something secure. Here's what I learned. The biggest risk isn't leaving. The biggest risk is staying somewhere that doesn't value what you bring, because every year you stay, you're not just losing money. You're losing respect, confidence, and opportunities, and those things are a lot harder to get back than a job. You know what you're worth. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise.